Hello, my second grade friends, and welcome to today's phonics lesson. We are going to be continuing our kind of unit on word collecting and becoming good word collectors, just like Jerome in the book Word Collectors. So we are going to be continuing that today, and I'm actually going to be teaching you a new kind of word, so that way it could kind of help you better collect words that are like these words that I'm going to be teaching you today. So it's really important for us to learn as much as we can about the words that we're collecting. Not just their meanings and not just certain like digraphs that make up the word or certain word letter sounds. We need to really know like everything we need to know about the words that we collect. And a lot of words that you might see when you are doing your word collecting, when you're reading, you might notice it when you're writing as well, are words called homonyms. Now you might be saying, Mr. Piccolo, we already know what homonyms means. Well, it's very confusing, and there's homophones and there's homonyms. Okay, you probably have learned what homophones already are, and so I'm going to review that with you quickly, and then I'm going to teach you about what homonyms are. So I'm going to pull up my screen here. And if you remember from your learning, homophones are words that sound exactly the same, but they mean different things and they are spelled differently. So the perfect example of a homophone is the word to. There's 3 different spellings of the word to, and each of those spellings also has its own meaning, right? So to, the first one that you see here, number 1 in red, is to. That is like, going to the store, or you're giving something to another person, right? You're giving a birthday gift to my friend, right? So that's kind of what the first 2. The second 2, it's actually kind of funny that I put this one for number 2, but TWO is the number 2 right next to it, right? So anytime you're talking about the number 2, if there's 2 apples, or if you have 2 books in your hand, right? That is how you would write the number 2 if you were writing, right? So TWO is the number 2. And then 3, TOO, 2 means also. So when you see 2 written with 2 O's, that means like also. So I like playing in the park too, right? I have a dog too, right? So that's another way of saying the word to, and that's its different meaning, right? So it means also. So the word to is considered a homophone. Now, what a homonym is a word that has the same spelling or pronunciation but have different meanings. So in other words, the word is spelled the same, but it has 2 different meanings, okay? Or you might say it the same way, but it has 2 different meanings. So for example, an example of a homonym is the word right, right? So right could be like taking like your right hand or taking a right turn, right? It's kind of like a direction, but you could also use the word right as correct, right? So let's think of 2 sentences for the homonym right. So let's think first about the direction, right? So I turned the car to the right, or I turned the steering wheel to the right, right? So that could be a good sentence using the word right. So I turned the steering wheel to the right, okay? And then our second sentence, so that's the first sentence, and it has the word right as like the direction, right? Okay, now we're thinking about a sentence that we could write that uses the meaning right as like correct, right? So you might be able to say something like, I got all the questions on my math work right. Okay, so as you can see, in both sentences, the word right is still spelled the same, but it means different things in each sentence, right? I turned the steering wheel to the right, as in you turned it in the direction right, right? I got all the questions on my math work right, as in I got all the questions on my math work correct. So again, spelled the same, but there's two examples of how the meanings have changed, okay? Let's take a look at one more before I have you do some of your own sentences with homonyms, right? So let's think of two sentences for the homonym fly. So again, we're not changing the spelling of the word, but the word's meaning is going to be different in each sentence, right? So for fly, one meaning for fly is actually flying, kind of like in the sky, right? So maybe a sentence could be like, I saw a bird fly, okay? Or a plane, like a plane flies, something that flies, right? Like in the air, you can see it flying, okay? The other meaning of fly could be the actual insect, right? Like every now and then, especially like in the summertime, right? When you might be sitting outside, you might see like a fly fly by you, right? So maybe we can write a sentence that talks about the insect fly. So maybe we can say something like, a fly landed on my arm, right? So a fly landed on my arm. So that sentence talks about an actual fly, right? The insect. The first sentence is almost like an action word. You're seeing the bird fly, right? So I saw a bird fly, right? The action of flying. The second sentence says, a fly landed on my arm, the actual object fly, right? The insect. So again, fly is another example of a homonym, spelled exactly the same in both sentences, but in each sentence, the meaning of the word fly changes. Okay, so those are some examples of some homonyms. So what you're going to do today for your phonics assignment is you are going to pick one of the homonyms below. So we have duck, fan, saw, blue, bat, and park. You're going to pick one. When you pick one, what I want you to do is I want you to highlight it on the Google Doc. So the way you do that is you take your cursor, you click your mouse or your whatever button you use to click things with, you press it and hold it, and you drag the mouse across the word until you see like a blue lining, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to come up to this thing. It looks like a paintbrush. It's called a highlight color. You can just click that and you can pick any color and it's going to highlight the word that you picked. Okay? So for example, I picked the word fan, right? So now I'm going to think of two sentences that use the word fan in each, but the meaning is different in each sentence as well, right? So for example, I might say for fan, my first sentence might be, I am a rock and roll music fan, right? I love rock and roll, so I would be considered a fan, right? My second sentence might talk about the other meaning of fan, which is the thing that we use to kind of cool ourselves down a lot, especially in the summertime, right? So, so maybe a sentence that I can say for that is, I turned on my fan because it was hot, right? So again, I am a rock and roll music fan. I love, loving something, being a fan of something is to love something, right? And then I turned on my fan, the actual object fan, right? So again, another example of how fan is a homonym. It's spelled the same in each sentence, but in each sentence, the meaning is different. Okay, so that's what I would like you guys to do for today for our phonics assignment. So thank you very much for listening to this lesson. I hope you guys understand better the difference between a homonym and a homophone. And I can't wait to see the sentences that you guys create for your homophones. Remember, you're only picking one. So your sentences that you write should have the same word in them. You shouldn't be writing like one sentence for fly and then one sentence for another word. Each sentence should have the same word, but again, remember, different meaning. right? So ask anybody at home to help you if they can think of some sentences that would help you better understand homonyms. Okay, so great job today. I can't wait to see the sentences that you come up with, and great work. Bye, everybody.